All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome in. It's great to have you here for this Team Rogers Diversity and Inclusion conversation. David Amber, one of the hosts at Hockey Night in Canada, based here in Toronto. Great to have you along. Welcome in to all the Team Rogers draftees from across the country. We're going to welcome in our two special guests, your teammates, Ryan Reaves and Darnell Nurse, in just a matter of moments. But first, if you have any technical issues at all, there's a chat box. You can get into the chat box and they'll flush it out for you, make sure that we get you back up online so you can enjoy this great conversation we're having on diversity and inclusion coming your way. I want to say a special thanks to the NHL, to the NHLPA, and to 4 special BIPOC hockey associations doing such great work right across the country. Hockey for Youth, they're making hockey accessible to new Canadians. I've had a chance to work with Hockey for Youth. Great group of kids. Mo Hasham's doing a great job. So great to have those draftees here with us. APNA, the first South Asian hockey network, such meaningful work right across the country. And I'm so happy that they're joining us as well with their draftees. The 3 Nolans, Ted, Brandon, and Jordan, the Nolan family, synonymous with winning, synonymous with charitable work and philanthropy. And they're doing great stuff, hockey development for First Nations kids. So important to have that group involved in hockey, as they should be. And finally, Hockey Nova Scotia, right at the grassroots, great stuff out in the Maritimes, representing underrepresented groups, making sure that they have no barriers, that they can get on the ice, including a Black youth hockey program. So welcome into all the Rogers team draftees. You're going to really enjoy this conversation with 2 esteemed panelists that we're bringing in, your teammates. Let's start with the birthday boy, Darnell Nurse, looking good in Edmonton. Darnell, thanks for doing this so much, man. It's great to reconnect with you. Let me give a little bit of background on Darnell real quick. A first-round draft pick out in Edmonton, a star there. He's represented Canada a bunch of times, gold at the World Junior, silver at the World Championships. And it comes honestly, too, because his dad, Richard, of course, played in the CFL. His sister, Kia, a star in the WNBA, so he has some pretty good lineage. We'll check in with Darnell in one sec. And Ryan Reaves, pretty good. He's creeping up to 700 NHL games. I can't believe that, man. It's been a good ride for you.
I don't think anybody can, to be honest with you.
5th round pick in 2005. He's known as the toughest guy in the league. And yeah, that's fair. That's understandable. But he should get a bit more credit for having some, not just the fist, but he's got some supple wrists too. He scored some pretty big goals back in that championship run to the Stanley Cup final for the Vegas Golden Knights. He actually knocked out his hometown Winnipeg Jets. Series clinching goal back in 2018, followed it up in the Stanley Cup final, scored a goal. And it comes honest to him as well. His father was a star in the CFL, Willard. His brother, of course, Jordan, plays in the CFL. So 2 second-generation athletes who have a lot to say, meaningful discussion coming up on diversity and inclusion. And let me, first of all, guys, thanks for doing this. This is great. Teammates here. Darnell, let me start with you, man. To see a forum like this, you know, you've been in the league a fair time now. We're finally getting forums like this where we're talking about these issues. How important is it to have these types of discussions?
Yeah, I think this is a forum that I probably didn't think would happen, even just starting in the league 6 years ago. It's great to see this discussion and being able to, not only talk about experiences that we've all been through at different levels, but to share it through a game that has been so important to both me, Ryan, you yourself, David. It's really important, this conversation we're having, but it's great that we're able to do it in the way we are today.
Yeah, Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so important. With the temperature of the world, the temperature of North America right now, everything that's been going on over the last couple of years, just being able to talk about it, talk about experiences, and just kind of sometimes just get some things off your chest. I think it's a good way to start solving problems.
Yeah, you got to have the dialogue, and that's the key thing. And I want to make this clear. This is going to be an interactive conversation. If you have any questions for Darnell or Ryan, please put them out there. We'll get as many as we can involved and out there so we can have this discussion, and you guys are really having the kind of answers you want to get. And with that in mind, we had some questions sent to us ahead of time, fellas. I'm going to throw one out to you. Hockey for Youth, great organization. I had a chance to do a Zoom call with this guy, Abner Morales. He wants to know, guys, who inspired you to practice hockey as a profession? Did you have any heroes? I think it's a good question because people need people to look up to. So, Darnell, Ryan, who were some of the guys you guys looked up to that wanted to, get you interested to become a pro hockey player?
For me, it's funny. Growing up in Winnipeg, that's just what you did. There's a hockey rink on every corner. So, that was easy. You're just exposed to it every day. My hero growing up was actually my dad. I mean, he was a CFL player. I looked up to him. He was really well respected in Winnipeg, and the way he carried himself, the way people interacted with him, I always kind of looked up to that. And I always thought I was going to be a football player, to be honest. So I guess I'm a little bit different in that perspective. But for a hockey player, I think I always looked up to Patrick Waugh. I was always the goalie in street hockey. I always wanted to be a goalie. So that was kind of my, Montreal was my favorite team. Then he moved to Colorado, and I was obsessed with Colorado as a kid. So I guess he was kind of the guy that, started me into hockey and kept me motivated. And then, I started looking at, once Colorado was my favorite team, Peter Forsberg was a guy that I kind of, he's a power forward. He had some good hands. He wasn't afraid to get dirty. So I think, those two guys probably definitely kept me in hockey.
For me, my father was a big reason I started playing hockey. He would take me out to the open skates in Hamilton all the time. It would just be me and him on the ice in the middle of the afternoon. And, from there, I grew fond of watching Jerome McGinley. Jerome McGinley was a big inspiration growing up. It's hard to admit it now that I wear Oilers gear, but I was a Calgary Flames fan at the time growing up, just because Jerome McGinley was wearing the C there. So that for me, that was the reason why I got into the game. I wanted to be like Jerome McGinley.
So it's funny, you mentioned Jerome McGinley, and representation, I guess, really matters, right? You saw someone and he looks like you, same skin color, and you see him succeeding, and there's a new generation of guys. There's the Quinton Byfields coming up, and there's the Nick Robertsons coming up, Andre Miller's coming up. What kind of advice or what kind of things have you had a chance to talk to the younger generation? There's a lot of people right across Canada right now who are looking up to you guys and saying, hey, I see Ryan's done it. I see Darnell's done it. I want to do it, and I can do it too. What's your message to those kids?
I think for me, I would say, don't let anybody tell you can't do something. If me, who was a 5th round draft pick and can't score, if, the net was a soccer goal, if I can do that, then anybody can do it. I've had people tell me there's no way I couldn't play in the NHL when I was younger because, my feet were too big. I was too slow. I've faced racism here and there. And, you got to ignore all that hate, but you got to turn it into motivation. I always say, I love my fans, but I love my haters the most because they motivate me to keep going. And I think you need to use some of that as motivation throughout your life.
I think he nailed it right on the head. You gotta, don't let anyone tell you what you can't do, and enjoy the game. I think, it's a lot of fun to play the game of hockey. There's going to be times where you're challenged, I think, both physically and mentally. We've all been through experiences where you're out there on the ice and you feel like you're out there alone. So that you have to face those type of challenges and face them head on. It's not always going to be perfect, but you got to know that if you put in the hard work, the dedication, and the time, and believe in yourself, this game can show you some great things.
We have these draftees, Team Rogers draftees from right across Canada. We mentioned the 4 hockey associations, the BIPOC associations, and I bet you anything, a large percentage of the people watching this discussion right now have had at some point or another some sort of stereotype put towards them. Well, why aren't you playing basketball? What are you doing on the hockey rink? What do you guys say? You've heard these things. I heard these things when I grew up playing hockey in Toronto. Go play basketball. What do you say? What's a good way to respond to that type of situation? Because it's not easy.
I mean, I don't know if I necessarily ever respond to it. With social media now, you get a lot of that. And, especially when you go to an opposing city and, for me, I play physical style, I go run somebody, you get a lot of that hate, and you do get the, stick to basketball, stick to football, you don't belong on the ice. But again, like I go back to your last question, I use that as motivation. Your hate is motivating me to do more and be better. And, we're taking steps right now through things like this to stop that. But the reality is it's never going to 100% go away. People are brought up a certain way. People are exposed a certain way to things that it's hard to get rid of. But through things like this and starting discussions, we can start to slowly diminish it.
Yeah, well said. And let me throw out another question for you guys. This came from Hockey Nova Scotia, Zoe and Evan Williams. How did your parents deal with your first and subsequent issues of racism while being involved in hockey? I think that's a big part of the equation too, because it's a family. When these incidents happen, and we've heard Matt Dumba talk about it, it's not just that it happens to the player on the ice, but their whole family gets impacted sometimes when you hear things from the fans or from the other players or whatever the case. Darnell, why don't we start with you? How do you address these things as a parent?
As a parent, I think, you just gotta be supportive. Like I said, there's times when these things do happen and you come home and you feel like you're in a real small, lonely place. And that support from your parents and your family is, in a lot of ways what gets you back up and going. Nobody, I think, I'm going to be a parent here in a few months. This is something I never want to have a conversation with my child about, but there's a chance there that it could be something I have to have a conversation with. And I want my kid to know that I am there for them. And that support can go a long way, I think, for my parents when I would go through something like that, on the car ride home and at dinner, they would always tell me, actions speak louder than words. They could say whatever they want about you, but they can't stop the way that you play. They can't change the type of person you are. So that's, I always knew they had my back.
Love it.
I mean, for me, I think, I have 2 kids now, and, my oldest is starting to understand things a little bit more. My youngest doesn't, can barely talk, but I think, teaching them at a young age that it doesn't matter, what you do, the color of your skin, where you're from, what you look like, everybody is equal, and everybody should have the same equal opportunity to do anything, whether it's play hockey or get a job or, whatever. And, I think teaching that at a young age is very important, so that if one of those events does happen when they, get a little bit older, whether they're playing hockey or in school or whatever it is, they understand that that's not right and that's not the way that people should be thinking. And if it does happen, yeah, just like Nurse said, you got to sit down and you really have to talk to them and support them and have a conversation with them and let them know, listen, that person is ignorant to what you should be, how people should act. And that's not how I want you to act. And that's not how I want anybody that you associate with to act. And I think that's really important, conversations with your kids, especially at an early age, because they're really impressionable. That's when they soak things up like a sponge. So having those conversations at early age is, I think, really important, and kind of instilling those qualities in them.
Guys, I think there's a broader message here too. It's funny because so much of the burden of trying to make progress and fix these problems falls on the guys who are suffering from the discrimination, from the racism. How important is white allyship? And I'll give you an example. Like Ryan, you were great. You provided such great leadership in the playoff bubble on the day that the players decided collectively we're not going to play hockey for a couple of days after the shooting of Jacob Blake. And it was Kevin Shattenkirk, your former teammate with the Blues, who reached out and sort of wanted to lend some support. How important is that? In a hockey that's more prevalent, it's more a white sport right now. To have that allyship, to move forward, to have a level of progression that we need to see to get the game, where we want to see it from a culture standpoint.
Well, look, for me, when I was in the bubble, and I've told this story before, I was up all night the night before a playoff game thinking of what I was going to do, how people were going to react, basically because I am in a white sport. If I'm in the NFL, I know that I have an army behind me, but in the NHL, we found out I had an army behind me, but I didn't know that. And so to wake up to, Shaddy calling me, and all of a sudden there's a bunch of guys on the phone, and, the Vancouver Canucks are standing outside a locker room wanting to have a conversation. It's really important. And not only is it important, but I think it sends a stronger message that, look, this isn't happening to us, but I see this problem and I understand that this is a problem. And as a community, as North America, as a world, we need to fix that. And so when you have other races stepping in for a different race problem, I mean, the message is so powerful there.
Yeah, I've always said this isn't a black or white issue, it's a wrong or right issue. And the fact of the matter is, from the grassroots level of hockey all the way through to the NHL, the only way culture will change will be people seeing and calling out people and saying, that's not right. We're not going to stand for that when it happens. It's not to the burden of, specifically the people who are on the wrong end of it and their families to address it. It should be as a community we address it. So I think that's a really important message. And I hope, some of the draftees have sent in some questions, and they're very personal questions. Heather Neufeld, I'm not sure which association she's with, but Heather says, what is something I could say to someone, a response to them who's bullying or making fun of me for my skin? I mean, and that's, a real thing that happens. So Darnell, Ryan, do you guys have a thought, how to respond to such a personal issue like that?
Yeah, well, first off, sorry that's happened to you, because that's unacceptable. I think Ryan just, it's unacceptable in society that that's even a thing that we're talking about right now. It's almost an educating moment. I mean, it's hard for anyone in that situation, because what are you going to do? Go up to the bully and say, that's wrong? Because that's the first thing you should be saying, that's wrong. And you have to have, you just have to stay strong, in my opinion. I mean, you have to stay strong. This is something that's wrong and you shouldn't be going through. You have to believe in yourself and the people around you that you trust, that, you can make a point to this person that, hey, this is not okay. It's not okay for me. This is not okay for you to be saying to somebody else. You need to stand up for yourself. And, because the biggest thing with a bully is if, you tell them off, it's, one of their biggest fears. That's my opinion on it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think you start by saying, I'm sorry you feel that way, and I don't think you'd feel that way if the shoe was on the other foot. But just what Darnell was just saying, I think the biggest key is to know that inside of yourself that that's not how people should act, and that's not actually true. If you're having racism thrown at you, well, that's your issue. You clearly have a problem with whatever's going on in your life, or the way you were brought up, or something that happened, but it's your issue. It's not mine. And I'm strong enough to understand that. I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of my heritage. I'm proud of who my parents are, where they came from. And as long as you understand that the rest is just noise. And you can just, you stay away from that situation, but you need to be strong in understanding that, you are much stronger than what those words mean.
We have a birthday shout out as well for you, Darnell, from Teresa King.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you.
Birthday. You guys are making great points, and it's not easy. This isn't an easy conversation to have, guys, and I'm happy we're having it, but I'm sad that we still have to have it. Listen, I'm almost 50, I'm sad to say, but I mean, things have progressed. It hasn't been the type of progression I'd like to see as quickly as I'd like to have seen it, but there is progression made from when I was a kid playing hockey. Have you guys felt, Ryan, I mentioned you were drafted in 2005. Darnell, I think you're about 8-9 years younger than Ryan. But have you guys noticed progression since when you were kids playing hockey to where we are now?
I think, you always hear about these incidents that happen. I remember, there was a banana thrown at Simmer that one year, and you hear about these instances that keep coming up here and there, and they're constant reminders that it's still here and there still needs to be discussions. But at the same time, in 2005, we're not having these discussions, whether it's on Zoom or these panels. We weren't having these discussions, and I think that's just proof of the progression and the fact that communities in North America, or the hockey world, are seeing a problem, and now we can start talking about it. And to me, that's progress.
What do you think, Darnell?
Yeah, I agree too. Obviously, I haven't been around the league as long, but definitely as a whole, especially in this game, where you look around your locker room and 95% of your team is white. To even go in the room nowadays and you see, a cop shooting an unarmed black man, you can have a conversation and their ears are open. They're not shutting you out and have their own opinion before it even starts. Their ears are open, and you can sit down at the table and they can see what's so wrong with this conversation that we're having. And I think in that light, that is progress.
Guys, how important is it to end stereotypes? And, language leads to stereotypes. And even in my profession as a sports broadcaster, when we refer sometimes to a white quarterback, oh, he's so smart, he really has worked so hard to get there. And then we refer to a black quarterback, well, he's naturally gifted, he's a great athlete. And we help perpetuate some of these stereotypes, right? The NBA guys are in the hoodies and, oh, they don't look professional. And the NHL guys are in the suits, and there's often a lot of sort of undertones to the language that's spoken. The reason I ask that is I'm just wondering, when it comes to coaches and comes to some of the adults in these hockey organizations, how important is it for them to lead the way to sort of shut down those stereotypes, treat everyone as, equals, and that'll help end in perpetuating these types of, sort of microaggressions and racism that we see casually at the rink?
Yeah, I mean, stereotypes only stoke the fire on racism and stuff like that. I remember when I was it was my first NHL camp. I walked into the locker room, and I'm not here to say names or anything, but a coach came up to me, and I was wearing a backwards hat, and he said, "You play in the NBA?" I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He's like, "Put that hat forward. We don't do that here." And to me, it wasn't like we don't do that in hockey. It was, black players do that, and maybe that's not, but that's kind of the tone I took it as. Why would you say NBA? Why would you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so, I think when you have stereotypes like that and they're thrown out loosely like that, whether they're meant to be derogatory or not, it kind of stokes the fire, and it stokes the conversation of, well, what did he mean? Why are you saying it like that? And I think it only sends us backwards in the conversations.
That's a really good point. Let me throw out another question. This was from Hockey for Youth, Parek, who we met in one of our Zoom calls over with Sonnet and the NHLPA. How do you deal with life's failures? I mean, that's not just, we could be here a while answering this one, but that's a good question. And I think a lot of kids, it weighs on them, right? It weighs on them, you're not always going to win. You're not always going to have things work out. I have 2 kids, and I'm telling them the same things. Sometimes you just got to accept it, and it motivates you, as Ryan said earlier, to do better and do your best. But how do you deal with them? You guys are in a pressure-packed industry. Playing pro hockey is a dream, but it comes with a lot of pressure. Darnell, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think failure has got to be a part of a fuel to your fire. Playing in Edmonton, you could turn a puck over and you'll have 20,000 tweets in your inbox about how bad of a hockey player you are, calling you every name from here to the moon. So I think we've all been here to get to the highest level in anything, whether it's hockey, being a host like David is, to get to the highest level, we've all been through some sort of failure. And there's probably a point that everyone was at where they could have just quit and gone on to something else, or you just power through. And I think failure is really just a test. I think you look at it as a test, and the only way to pass the test is to work harder and get through it. And that's the way I've faced some of my biggest failures.
For me, understanding that success can't come without failure, understanding that with failure is a teaching point. Nobody's perfect. You're not going to get to the top of the mountain without slipping a couple times or realizing you took the wrong path. But if you keep going up that path and you keep slipping down, well, then you're not learning from your mistakes. But if you use that as, like Nurse said, motivation, or as a teaching tool, that's the biggest key. Failure isn't a bad thing. It hurts sometimes, but you need to flip that into a teaching point and realize what you did and use that information for later on to become successful.
Well said, guys. There's a lot of really good questions coming in through our chat box here, and I'm going to throw out a few. And some of them might seem pretty simple, but there's people experiencing different things, and they want your guys' opinion as guys who've been through it. This is from Jordan Anderson. Have you ever been discriminated against by a coach or parent?
I mean, the story I just told was really the only time I've ever felt that it was, something towards my race or anything from a coach. A parent, I don't think so. I think I had a player when I was in AAA. He said that he dropped the N-bomb on me. And, back in the day, for me, I think I was so ignorant to not what it meant, but, the power of that, of a white person saying that to me, that, I just said, okay, well, that's your problem. And I actually had a teammate hear it and told the ref. And then, it turned into this big thing. I was like, he's got to live with it, not me. But that's me being a kid and not understanding that, yeah, you can't say that. Like, that's a pretty serious problem, and that should be dealt with. But other than that, I've had a couple. I always tell the story. I've had a sad instance where, I was walking down the street, and this old lady was kind of walking towards me, and there was white people walking by her, and she's fine, and then it was me next, and I had my hood up and a like sleeveless shirt, and I've got tattoos everywhere, and she just kind of locked eyes with me, and she stopped, and she just walked in the middle of the street across the road. Mm-hmm. And it was like, for me, it was just sad because she wouldn't know that, if she fell or needed some help, I'd probably be the first person to help her. But, she saw me as, I don't know, but I'm assuming, big black tatted up guy that she probably was scared of. And it just kind of broke my heart that she would think of me like that, knowing how I am. But, yeah, I've been pretty fortunate. I've only had a couple instances in my life where it's felt like racism, or it's racism because of words, but it's all around.
Yeah, Darnell, is there any experience you wanted to share in that, or we can move on?
I think we move on.
Okay.
I've been through a few, so nothing crazy.
A lot of good questions. Okay, here's a light one. I'll throw a little softball your way. Ryan, what's your pregame meal? Zlato Durovic wants to know that.
I get short for this all the time. So I have spaghetti and meat sauce, but it is like an obscene amount of spaghetti and meat sauce. Like, it's like a casserole dish almost. And I don't know how I function after, but that's just how it seems to be getting bigger and bigger every single week. That's just that and a little salad and a bunch of water.
Okay. Again, it gets the job done. This one from Devin Adams for you, Darnell. Do you enjoy playing with Connor McDavid? Because the Oilers are his favorite team. I think I might know the answer to this one.
I don't know too many people that wouldn't enjoy that. So, yeah, I'm a fan.
Yeah, Ryan, do you enjoy playing against Connor McDavid is the question.
I don't. You know what, though? I will say this. He cut a deal with me last game. He said he wouldn't score on me if I didn't lay him out, but little does he know, like, I can't catch him to lay him out, so I hope he keeps cutting that deal with me.
That's pretty good. Oh, that's really good. So here's this is a very honest one. I hope I pronounced his name right. Baljit Brar. I'm just going to read this. I always get bullied at school, and I get hit, and people are so racist to me. It's not a question, but I think he's sharing what's been a tough situation. And I just want to say, we can all understand that, Baljit. Listen, you've got friends, you've got people who are looking out for you. I don't want you to think you're alone. And maybe there's some adults at your school or in the hockey organization that you could reach out to and get them to help you through this situation. I think this isn't something you should take on yourself. And by just reading your statement, maybe this is something you feel alone. Darnell, Ryan, did you guys ever get that? You felt a little bit alone? Didn't have to be something as severe as that, but what advice might you give Baljit?
Sorry, go ahead.
I think there's a lot of people that would be in your corner on this and would support you. And it's awful that you're going through. I think that, like David said, there's definitely people that will support you. And I think I can speak for myself. I think we're all here for you.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. When you're young, you don't really know the support groups that are available to you. Surrounding yourself with friends is really important. But just talk to somebody, and that's even just getting it off your chest. Sometimes the person you talk to can be so helpful just from talking to them. But talk to an adult that can create a support group for you. That's really important.
Let me ask you guys a question. You're professional athletes. You have a big platform, big following, social media. You're well known in your communities and your hometowns as well, your hockey communities and hometowns. Why do you use your platform the way you do? How tough is it, first of all, to step out of your comfort zone? Because it'd be very easy just to go about your business, not worry about any social issues, and just live the life of a professional athlete. But you guys give back to the community, and you stick your head out there and sort of stand up for what you believe in. Why do you do that?
I think I do it because I have that platform, and when there's something you feel strongly about, and I have that platform to use, why not? Some people don't have that opportunity. Some people don't have the thousands of followers or the media at their disposal, and they could be very passionate about something that they really want to talk about, but they just don't have that platform. And so for me, when there's an issue like this that we're talking about, and I have those resources at my dispense, why not use them? It reaches more people. It starts the conversation up with more people, and it touches more people. And the conversation comes back tenfold when you use that.
Yeah, it's a big part of the platform. You could easily just sit on there and post things that don't make any change. But I mean, who's that helping? That's not helping anyone. I think we're all very fortunate to be in the position that we're in. We've been in, I think we're all really grateful for the position that we're in, and we've been through some things that we want to see changed. So using our platform, I think is not even a question.
All right, here's another fun one for you guys from Kelly Scott. Who are your favorite goalies to play against?
Ooh. No, I'm not even going to do it, because every time you say your favorite goalie, you never score on them again. Seen that way too many times.
I'm going to stick away from that too. I need all the goals I can get, so I'm going to stay away from that.
Find someone retired, right? Jimmy Howard.
Somebody retired and out in the East, just in case there's bad shooting coming back west. I don't know, Patty Wise, my favorite ever.
Oh man. I'm just looking for some more good ones, because there's a lot of good ones here. Darnell, what's your favorite music to listen to before a game? And that is from Connor Gooduk.
I got 3 phases here. On the way to the rink, big Drake guy. When we get into the rink, Young Thug starts, and then there's a lot of EDM to finish it off. You guys love EDM, so 3 phases.
Yeah. What about you, Ryan?
A lot of J. Cole in my lineup. Is a little bit 50 Cent, old school 50 Cent, old school Kanye. I got some Young Thug in there, but I'm basically all hip hop. I don't know if I have much other than hip hop on especially on game days. I got nothing else, but I barely have anything else on the phone besides that. A little Jack Johnson if I'm tired. That's about it.
Chill out a little bit. I like Jack Johnson. Rob Appleby wants to know, where did his question go? It just zipped. Oh shoot, my timeline zipped as I did that. But he had a question. What was it again? Oh shoot, sorry. There's a lot of questions in the slot here. We'll get back to his question in just a matter of minutes, but he had a good one. Do you have any tips? Kelly Hinckley Price, she wants, or I'm not sure if it's a man or a woman, but they would like some tips. Has a game on Sunday. So we'll give us some basic hockey tips to someone who's out there heading to a big game.
Nurse, you take it. My tips don't work.
They don't work. What do you mean? Get right to the front of the net.
Yeah.
First step.
There you go. Hope one goes off you.
Yeah. Good tips. Make sure the legs are going to warm-ups. That was my one and only tip, because you can figure everything else out. You just gotta get the legs going.
Yeah, all right. It's always good to have the legs going. I found Rob Appleby's question, by the way. He wants to know who's the hardest player to play against in the league. And I'm sure you guys will have different answers, because Ryan, you're a forward, and Darnell, you're a defenseman. But who would you guys say is the toughest, one-on-one matchup you're gonna face?
I don't like playing against McKinnon. I feel like I don't like playing against McDavid either. Those are the top 2 in the league. But those guys, they stick handle so fast, and the way they pick up speed when they're turning and stick handling, it puts my brain in a pretzel how any human can even do that. Because if I tried doing that, man, I'd be tripping. I would break my neck going into the boards. And it's like, I don't know. Those guys are just like, if I was starting a franchise, those are 1-2 right there, and who I'm taking. Like they're hard to play against.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, McKinnon. For me, McKinnon. Obviously, I play with Connor, so I can't say him. But yeah, McKinnon. He's so powerful. Yeah, 0 to 60 in 1 second. It's unbelievable.
So I want to ask you guys a question about progress. We only have a few minutes left here. I'm really happy all the draftees are here, getting great knowledge from Darnell and Ryan. When you look at progress, real progress, as far as inclusion and diversity in the game of hockey, is the next threshold we need to see some GMs who are visible minorities. We need to see some owners. And I know Arizona's owner, Mr. Morello, is Latino, which is great. But do we start to see those thresholds, and that it can kind of trickle down from the top? The culture will change. It'll be easier to employ people and just have a natural culture which is more inclusive and representative of society. Is that the key to progression?
Yeah, I think it's hard to start at the top, because the way the league is now, you see a lot of ex-players getting into these positions. And so I think you got to start with the kids. I think you got to drag these communities into the game, expose them to them, try and get them into try and get them playing, more black players drafted, more black players in the league. Those players start retiring. They want to get into coaching. They want to be a GM. It's tough to be an owner when you're a player, but I think you got to start with the kids, and I think it trickles its way up. It's so hard to just say, all right, I got to go find a black GM, because where are you going to find them? But I think also a big key to that is putting black people or just people of color in the front office, because if you want to touch these communities, they know those communities better than anybody else. They've been in these communities. They probably lived in these communities. So finding those people to be in the front office and finding a way to get to the communities that they've been into, to drag those kids to the sport, I think is really important.
That's an interesting point. Yeah, go on, Darnell.
Yeah, no, I think that's to have people working within the organization that are not just white. I think you look at any organization probably around the NHL right now. If they're selling tickets, it doesn't matter the role within the organization. It's usually a white person filling the role. So how are you going to expose yourself to other communities if you have zero insight into what other communities want? So that's I think that was a great point. All right.
Yeah, and listen, we want to have representation, which is what's important, and it's not a matter of just hiring anyone. There are definitely qualified candidates. It's about identifying them, training them, retaining them, and promoting them when the opportunity arises. And I think we do see some. When you see Joel Ward now out coaching in your organization, Ryan out in Henderson, and when you see the likes of Manny Malhotra now on the Leafs bench, when you think about South Asian people, when you think about First Nations people, Jordan Tutu's been such a great inspirational leader for the First Nations community. There are, and Ted Nolan, we have the three Nolans group with us, and Ted Nolan, coach of the year, and has been in a sense not given his just to keep continuing on. So there's been problems, but there certainly are qualified candidates. I think that's a discussion that we need to keep retaining and training and moving forward in that regard. There's been a lot. We've covered a lot of ground here, and I think a lot of the draftees that are listening in on this, they've got a bit of pain, and maybe they're feeling some things. But I'm hoping, what you've said, Ryan, and what you've said, Darnell, can maybe take some of that pain off of their shoulders and feel like there is a community around them. Are you guys getting a sense that the community's growing? When I look at, again, the young NHL community, there's more and more people of color, and I love to see it.
Yeah, I think it's growing. How fast it's growing, it's hard to tell. Mm-hmm. But like I said, you got to start with the kids. That's the only way it's going to grow. That's how it's going to grow organically, grow quickly. But just from conversations like this, it's growing.
Yeah, I agree. I have a question for you from Lincoln Roma. He wants to know, how close are you guys off the ice? Like, are most of your best friends NHL players? You obviously work together, you spend a lot of time together, but would you say your closest group of friends are guys you're in the profession with?
I mean, for me, most of my, you know, it's sad because when you're in high school and you grow up, you start growing apart, and people move to different cities, and then all of a sudden, I got a job where it's not even close to what it's like for an accountant or a lawyer or anything like that. So yeah, I keep up with some of my high school buddies, but for sure my closest circle is definitely my team here, and then guys that I've played with in the past or on other teams.
Yeah, I'm still at the point. I still got my five buddies from home that I'm really close with.
Back in Hamilton.
Back in Hamilton.
Nice.
And I have I think the thing about a team like playing in NHL is you're with guys almost all day, every day. I mean, you go on the road and you're on flights and the meal room. If there's a Super Bowl, like Super Bowl's coming up, you have guys watching the Super Bowl in the big lounge, 6 feet apart now. But like 6 feet apart with a mask on. So you just spend so much time together over the course of a year. It's hard not for that to be your closest group of friends, and almost becomes like a family.
All right, we only have a couple more minutes. I want to read a great comment that's come in from Ryan. I'm a girl and I have played hockey with boys my whole life. I've been playing AA with boys since I was 7. Thanks for sharing some of your discrimination stories and advice. Some of these things I can relate to, being the only girl on the team. So there it is. It's not just a race thing. Often it's a gender issue as well, feeling included and adding that diversity. And I'm so pleased that there's getting some traction with the women's game, and we're going to see more professional women's hockey, which is such a great thing. And that segues to a great question for Darnell from Jen Brimacombe. Darnell, can you beat your sister Kia at basketball? I was wondering the same thing. I doubt it.
Yeah. It's not even close. I used to challenge her a little bit when we were younger, and then no, she's like 6'1" and can hit a shot from anywhere. So even if I'm no good. But it's funny you talked about the women in hockey, because my cousin obviously played for the Olympic team.
Sarah Nurse.
Professional hockey player. So growing up, we grew up playing hockey together when we were younger, and then I moved away. Like I went and played in Toronto, and she continued to play in Hamilton. But she faced a lot of the same things, and I was on the call. We were doing a call with her, a couple months ago, and she was talking a little bit about some of her experiences too. And she always put her head down and just worked hard. And same thing. Anytime she ever had a problem, she could reach out to me or my uncle, my dad, anybody. So you got to know you got a big support system around you too. And I mean, if you're the girl beating up on all the boys, they're probably just jealous that you're better than them.
Here's a great question. Ryan, I'll throw this one out to you from Neil Sherwood. What can we do as white allies to help? Which is something we talked about earlier. It can't just be, the visible minority community trying to uplift the situation. It has to be with the help of the white majority. How can they help?
Yeah, I think a perfect example of how you can help is, what happened in the bubble. A lot of players, and I was so happy a lot of players said this. A lot of players said, I don't know what you're going through. I'm not going to pretend like I do. So I need to educate myself, and then I can support you once I'm educated. And that's the biggest key. You need to educate yourself on, issues that are going on, and, just what's going on around the world. And don't pretend, and don't say, I know what's going on in your life, because you really don't. You don't know what it feels like to be discriminated against because of the color of your skin, because, people don't do that towards you. So just educate yourself, and then support after you've been educated.
That's good. Listen, there's been a lot of good dialogue here, guys. Christy Jameson from New Brunswick just wants to say thanks for doing the call. I plan to be supportive for all of my players on my team and in my league. And I think that's so key. We just have to treat everyone with respect, treat everyone with dignity, treat everyone equally. And our society on and off the ice will be a much improved place. I can't thank you guys enough for taking the time. Darnell, my goodness, it's your birthday. There's a lot of things you could be doing, but this speaks volumes to who Darnell Nurse is. Takes the time out, wants to be a helpful mentor to a lot of young kids out there. Ryan, awesome stuff as always, man. I can't wait to see you back on the ice. When are you going to be back on the ice, I guess is the question.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, you ready to go?
Always ready.
And when do you guys play each other again? Oh, actually, I guess it would have to be, what am I saying? It won't be this year unless it's maybe in the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
If it's in the playoffs, that's a good problem. That's a good problem.
That's a really good problem. Listen, Darnell, Ryan, thank you so much. And I want a special thanks to Team Rogers and all the draftees from across Canada, from the 4 BIPOC associations that have done so much good from the grassroots level on. It's important to keep having these conversations. And the more we can work together, the better things will be in society. So keep up the great work, everyone. There's going to be more interactive moments like this. So just reach out onto your Rogers team and you can find out what the next big event is and the next fireside chat we'll be having. So thanks for doing this, fellas, and I really enjoyed the time.
Anytime.
Thank you.
Be well, guys.